friends. Welcome back to In the Studio with Pyramid Dye Works. That's me, Pyramid Dye Works. My name is Liz. I am a knitter and a natural dyer. I am coming to you from my home outside of Taos, New Mexico in the southwestern United States. It has been 2 weeks since my last knitting confession. And I'm here again to talk to you about what I have been up to. Last time I talked with all of you about 2 weeks ago, I had been working on several different projects. I had 2 different sweaters on the go. One's a vest, but it's still a garment, so I think it counts. I had started doing some weaving on my rigid heddle loom, and I kind of talked about my dye plans for the year and thoughts with my natural dye business, which is Pyramid Dye Works, which you can, oh my God, there's so many animals right now, which you can find my online shop on Etsy. That is one of my announcements this week, is that I finally have my online shop back up and running. It is live and there is yarn in there. So do go check it out. I still have more that I will be adding. But it's back up and running now. So yay 2025. We're doing it. So there's a dog underneath me who is knocking the table. There's a cat who obviously just walked past. She's laying on my scarf that I wove last week. She was just like rolling in dirt outside. She's so dusty. She's a black cat, but she looks like she's brown right now. Anyway, yes, so I have made progress on all of those fronts. I have cast on a new sweater. I have made a new scarf. I have some questions about what I should do with some old projects that I'm hoping you all can help give me some insight. So let's start talking about what I have been working on. Before that, though, I will mention what I'm wearing because people always want to know, right? So I knit this one quite a few years back now. I bought the yarn in 2020. The yarn is from a dyer out of New York City, I believe, New York metro area. I bought it whenever I went to Vogue Knitting Live back in 2020. In January of 2020, I just got that one in under the wire. Anyway, it's a superwash merino, 100% merino. There's no nylon in it or anything, so it's not a sock yarn. The colorway is Earl Grey, which is just this beautiful, like, dusty pink, which I really love. Sorry if you can hear my dog licking. I'll be right back. The pattern is from Melody Hoffman. It's called Flora. It's really nice, drop shoulder, boxy fit, slim fit in the arms with this lovely texture stitch all over it, which is just very cute. They look like little flowers or something, which is probably why it's called Flora. That makes sense. Anyway, so yeah, I've had this sweater for going on 5 years now. And it's going strong. I was gonna say, I don't think I've ever had a hole in it, but I just looked down and I saw where I have repaired a little hole. But yeah, it's holding up really well. I wear it pretty often. Very cute. It's nice and lightweight, fingering weight, super wash wool. So it's not like the warmest sweater. But that's also, you don't always want the warmest sweater. So like today, it's supposed to be like 45 degrees out, Fahrenheit, Celsius. I don't know, that's probably like 7 or something. I'll put it down here. And it's sunny out. So it's gonna be pretty warm. I'm just gonna wear this in a light jacket and I should be good. I do live in the high desert. So like when the sun's out, it's warm. Like we're really high in elevation. My house is at about 7,000 feet-ish, meters. Sorry. So yeah, whenever the sun is out, you feel it for sure. So this will be perfect for today. Yes. So what have I been doing? What have I been working on the last 2 weeks? Yeah, let's talk about my knitting whips first, and then we'll go in the studio at the end. How about that? So I've made some progress. I'm just going to start grabbing things as whatever is closest to me because I'm a professional. So last time I was working on these socks made out of Mondim, which is a non-superwash, no nylon sock yarn. Very excited to be knitting with this. I've wanted to try this yarn for a long time, and I'm really excited to be knitting with it, and I'm really excited to see how it wears. So last time I was probably down around here, so I have continued up. I have knit my heel, and now I am working my way up the leg, and I am just doing a 3x1 ribbing pattern all the way around on the leg. On the foot, I had stockinette there on the bottom. Yeah, I'm not using a pattern, just really a sock recipe. Yeah, and this is going on. This is my Zoom knitting, so it gets worked on during my meetings during the week. So I had this much meetings this week. Progress. My guess is that next time the first sock will be done and I'll have the second one started. That's my guess. We'll see. Oh, sorry. So yeah, socks carry on, socks carry on. Oh my gosh, this next one, you guys, I don't know if this is the next one I should talk about. Let's talk about something more positive first. How about that? We'll talk about the positive things first. Good news first, bad news last. Good news. I'm continuing work on my open vest. So last time, I don't know, I was probably like around here or something. So I don't know. I've doubled the amount in pattern in 2 weeks, which is pretty good. Last time whenever I talked to you, I think I was like 2 weeks in on this about. So that checks out with progress. It is going right along. I talked about this pattern I talked about the yarn in depth last time and also the pattern in depth last time. I did say that it's kind of a complicated cable pattern. This is the side right here. So that'll go like under the arm, right? Very pretty, very, very pretty. And then it has this lovely mirrored cables all across the front and the back. Very nice. I talked about it in depth in my last podcast, whatever this is. So I'm not going to go into super detail about it. I'm carrying on. I did say that it was pretty complicated last time. I realized that the cable pattern is pretty complex. I don't really want to be working on this while I'm chatting or if I'm tired. And I will say I tried to work on this twice before bed, like in the last week. And I thought, oh, I'm fine. Like, yeah, it's a little late, but I still feel like knitting on something and I'll just pick this up because as you'll see, everything else is kind of in a different state. And I'm like in this pattern, like I know what I'm doing, so I can just pick it up at this point. But it is something that you have to pay attention to because every row is a little bit different. And sure enough, I messed up both times. I made it maybe a half round before I realized that like, oh no, I'm on the wrong row. I'm messing this up. Like, you're tired, put it down. So that does mean that this is going a little bit slower because I really should just work on it in the mornings. Whenever I have coffee in my hand and I'm not talking to anybody else. Yeah. So the pattern for this is the Oben Vest by Thea Coleman. So if you're unfamiliar with Thea Coleman, she is like the queen of cables. Her cable patterns are just the best. I love them. I basically want to knit just about everything she puts out, but I can't knit that fast. That being said, if you don't know about her, her design company is called Baby Cocktails, and all of her patterns are named after like a cocktail or some liquor or something. So the open vest, well, she has several open patterns. This is where I'm going with this. Oban is named after the whiskey, which is named after the town in Scotland where it's made, which is Oban. Oban, Scotland. It's on the west coast of Scotland. And she started coming out with these Oban patterns several years back. And I think the first one was probably the Oban hat, which I have right here. Sort of. So you can see it's the same design, right? Very cute. Very cute. So when this hat came out, I really, really liked it. And I wanted to knit it. And I had just finished knitting my dad a sweater out of this yarn, which is Knit Picks Full of the Andes worsted. It is a superwash. It does not feel like a superwash, I will say that. It feels quite rustic, but it is a superwash yarn somehow. Anyway, I can't recall the name of this color. It might be like Merlot Heather or something like that. It's real pretty. Nice dark maroon. Anyway, I had yarn left over from my dad's sweater. I had just finished knitting that sweater, so like I knew what my gauge was in this yarn. And this open hat pattern came out and I really, really liked it. But I looked at it and I felt so bad about this, but I looked at it and I was like, I mean, I can see what that is. Like, I can see what those cables are. And like, that's a garter stitch panel. And like, that's a purl ridge. And I was like, I can just like look at the pictures and count it. And, you know, to be fair, then I did have to work out my own decreases, which I don't know if this is how she did it in her pattern, but this is how I ended up doing it. And I like that. I like the top. I think it's very cute. I think it worked out great. But yeah, I just reverse engineered this pattern and I did not buy it. And I felt really bad about it at the time, but I was also like, I mean, I can look at it and see what I'm supposed to do. And I know my gauge, so I figured out how many repeats I needed. And then, yes, I had to figure out my own decreases. So that's the whole point, right? I said, I'll rather use my brain power than spend the $5 on the hat pattern or whatever it was. But I did always feel bad about that. And then she kept coming out with these open patterns, and there was an open cardigan and an open pullover. And I've had the pullover in my queue on Ravelry for like a year. For like a year now, I swear. And I even have some yarn kind of set aside for it. I had a batch of yarn go bad in my natural dye studio. So I just kept that for myself. I had that sitting aside and I thought that could work for the open pullover. It's not necessarily like, it would be great for a cable something is my point. So I kind of had that in my mind earmarked that, okay, I'll get around to knitting the open pullover and I can buy the pattern, right? And then I won't feel so bad about reverse engineering that. But then I was looking for a New Year's cast on this year, and I was looking at my stash, and I had this, I didn't say what this was this time. It's Kelburn Woolen Scout, and the colorway is Blue Heather. It's a really beautiful color. Anyway, I'm also discovering about myself that whenever I buy yarn without a specific pattern in mind, I keep not buying enough. It's a theme. So in 2025 and going forward, maybe not the best resolution, buy more yarn. When I'm buying yarn, buy extra. Because I tried to buy like as little as possible. And just kind of like guess on the yardage of some, like, I don't know, that was probably enough for a sweater at like a worsted or a DK. But then whenever I actually went to go and look for a pattern, I was like, in an awkward state where it was like too much yarn for a shawl or some kind of accessory or something, but it was not enough yarn for a whole garment. And like if I had just knit a regular vest, I would have had a whole bunch left over. If I had knit a shawl, I would have had a whole bunch left over, but I didn't have enough for a sweater, right? So then I stumbled upon, oh my gosh, there's an Oban vest now. And since it has so many cables, it eats up yarn. So it was actually like the perfect amount for the yardage that I had in this Scout yarn. So I was like, oh my God, serendipity. I have just enough yardage for a heavily cabled vest, but I don't have enough for sleeves. So this works out great. Yeah, so I'm glad now that I was able to buy an Oban pattern. And the other, I don't remember if I talked about this last time. If I did, you're not going to hear this. If I didn't, you're going to hear it. So I went on a trip to Scotland almost 3 years ago now. That's wild. 3 years ago this spring. Anyway, I was attempting to hike the West Highland Way, which starts just north of Glasgow and goes up into the Highlands. It was a very unusually rainy spring, even for Scotland. I went during the dry season. It was not dry. My feet blistered up so badly. I couldn't get anything to dry out. I went through like all of my socks in the first 2 days, and I was like, this is supposed to last me for like a week. I had just one piece of paper printed out for my knitting pattern because of course I took knitting with me on the trail, of course. I had been knitting in my tent at the evening before, and then whenever I got up in the morning, the piece of paper, like my piece of paper of the pattern, was like soggy from just sitting in the tent. It's like, oh my God, like none of my clothes are going to dry out ever. My feet are just like total blisters. I don't have dry socks. Like I had to call it and I had to bag the trail. I was so sad and disappointed, but also like I could not have done the whole thing. So anyway, I ended up walking out at the halfway point, which is about 50 miles, which is pretty damn good. I walked 50 miles across Scotland. That's pretty rad. Supposed to be 100, but just ignore that part. The point being, I went off the trail down into this town. That's like the halfway point. They have a train station. I took the train up to the next town because there was a hotel there, and I was able to get a hotel for the night. And then like figure out what I was gonna do. I had other travel plans at a certain point, like certain tickets at a certain time to go the next place, right? So I had a couple of days to kill because I wasn't on the trail now. So I was like, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? And I had already knit this hat like a couple of years before. So Oban was kind of just like in my knowledge base somehow. And in researching for my trip to Scotland, it had popped up a couple of times in different forums, or I'd heard from people or something that like, oh, Oban's this cute little coastal town. And also since I did the hat, like it just kind of stuck in my head. And I was like, okay, like that seems neat. And I kind of looked at maybe trying to get out there on that trip, get out to the coast on that trip. But it just wasn't gonna work out. Like I just didn't have enough time. But then I ended up leaving the trail early. So like as I was hiking off the trail, really as I was deciding to leave the trail, there was like an internal voice that was just like, go to Oban, go to Oban, go to Oban. So I did. I got off the trail. I got a hotel room for the night, which was amazing because it was dumping rain. And I got to sit there in my hotel room and treat my sad little blister feet, watching it just dump rain outside, and watch Mad British TV. It was great. I took a bath. I got beers in the bar at the hotel. It was great. Anyway, then the next day I went and I got on the train and I went out to Oban for the weekend. I got a hotel there. I will put in a picture of the view from my hotel and a few pictures from Oban. Adorable. Loved it. I walked out off the train in Oban. My hotel was like across the street from the train station. And then across the street from my hotel was a yarn shop. And I was like, oh my God. A fabric shop next door with Harris tweed. Bolts and bolts of Harris tweed. Which I'm so sad that I'm like not a better sewist, because I just, oh my God. I can go into a yarn shop and pick something out for a project and be pretty confident, right? I'm not there with fabric yet. Anyway, my point is, the hat came first, then I actually went to the place, and now comes the best. So I'm getting a lot of lovely memories of my Scotland trip, Oban, and my Portland trip where I bought that yarn. And yeah, I love this hat too. It's so warm. Very cute. Okay, so we're still talking about good news. Okay, we haven't gotten to bad news yet. So good news is I cast on another sweater. Oh dear. Bad news is I'm gonna have to buy more yarn. Okay. Check it out. Oh, there it is. Oh, look at that. So I am knitting the porcelain sweater. It is from Lay Knit, I believe, is the designer company or whatever. Very beautiful color work. I'm going with the classic suggested 4 colors of the white and the blue, like Dutch painted porcelain. This sweater is kind of turning into a little bit of a memory from my trip to Europe that I took last year in the fall. So in November, I went over and I went to Denmark, Germany, and the Netherlands. So this is very like Dutch style, this kind of porcelain, this painted porcelain, right? It's Danish yarn, and I bought it in Germany. So it all comes together somehow. So the yarns I am using, I'm holding 2 yarns together. The base yarn is Isager Tveni, I think. Gonna have to go get tags, I think. Ah, perfect. Isager Tveni. And it is 100% pure new wool. Made at Skivegården, Denmark. So nice. It's like a lace weight. It's quite fine. Quite a fine yarn. And I am holding it double with Knitting for Olive mohair. Is it mohair or pure silk mohair? What's it called? Soft silk mohair. Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair, which is also lace weight. Lovely. And it is giving the most beautiful halo and just like a dreamy, dreamy fabric. I know, can you see the halo? Yes. So what can I say about this? I'm a little bit worried I'm gonna run out of the Isager, that I didn't buy enough. So I bought 2 of the main color and 1 of the blue. It's 100 grams for 510 meters. So I was like, okay, put together, like that's gonna be over 1,500 meters. Like that's definitely enough for a sweater. I'm pretty sure I had this pattern in mind when I was buying the yarn, but I did not have the yardage, and I was not in a position to be able to look it up at the time, unfortunately. So I guessed. I think I'll be fine on the blue. I'm a little bit worried I might run short on the natural color. I'm not sure which this came off of, so I don't know. They're numbers, so yeah. It might be fine. It might be fine, but I'm a little bit worried. The other thing is, I did not buy the Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair on that trip, which is a real bummer. The Isayer I did. I bought at a local yarn shop in a small town in Germany, which was a lovely little shop. It had some great stuff. But I thought it was so funny that I ended up buying the Danish yarn when I was in Germany. I had just been in Denmark. Anyway. And also I went to Knitting for Olive when I was in Copenhagen, and I didn't buy this because I didn't have the Isayer yet. I didn't know that I was gonna do this. So when I got home and realized, like, oh no, I actually need yarn to hold with this. Like, the Isayer is not thick enough for this gauge. Like, it needs a mohair. I ordered online and got the mohair. However, either I messed up, my friend messed up, or Knitting for Olive messed up. I'm not sure which. It doesn't really matter. But I was supposed to get 4 of the neutral mohair and 2 of the blue. And I ended up getting 4 of the blue and 2 of the neutral. So I have to buy more. I have to buy more. And I'm gonna have extra. I've been brainstorming. I have some ideas of what to use, do some accessories with the extra blue mohair, but I'm gonna have to buy more of the natural color, which I'm pretty sure they call marzipan. Yes, marzipan. However, this isn't such a bad thing because honestly, I think I'm gonna need to buy 3 more of these, so I have 5 total. So even if I had gotten the order correct in the first place, I still would have had to pick up another ball of the mohair somehow. So whatever. So the bummer thing is I'm already on the 2nd ball of mohair. That's what I mean. Like, oh, I'm actually going to need more than just the 4 to finish this thing. Yeah, so I can knit this much further on this before I can continue, which is gonna get about this much, right? Like, this took 1 ball of mohair to knit this much. So like, I'm gonna make it through the next colorwork band probably before I run out of yarn. Yeah, I'm weighing my options on this. There's a chance I might be going up to Denver, and there is a shop up in that area that carries Knitting for Olive in person. So if they have it in stock, I might just cross my fingers that I can make it up there in the next couple of weeks and pick up a few balls. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to make another order to Denmark. And given the way global politics are going, I should probably hurry up on that because getting mail from Denmark to the US might be a little bit harder after we go to freaking war, right? Because we gotta get Greenland. Stupidest fucking thing. I hate this timeline. I hate this timeline. Anyway, we're knitting. We're making things. We're keeping sane. We're taking control of the things we can take control of. Speaking of which, the bad news. Yes, this is bad news. This. She's too big. She's too big. I've been worried about it the whole time. I have been worried about it the whole time, but I keep holding it up to myself. I'm like, no, it's fine, it'll block out. Nope, she's too big. I tried it on last night. It's a weird thing. So I did make some modifications to the pattern, so it's partially to blame on me. However, I think I just picked the wrong size generally, because like this is the stitch count of the size that I picked for the yoke, but it's just way too big. The yoke is way too big. And then I made some other modifications. So the neck is too small and the body is just right. But the yoke is way too big. And it's not something that's gonna block out. It's too much. I thought I was like, maybe I should block it first, it'll be fine. Nope. There's just like ripples of extra fabric like at my underarms. And then it does this thing. It does this in the middle and the front. Nope. Oh, I already knit most of the sleeve too. God damn it. So I discovered this last night. And I think I've come to terms with it already. Like, I mean, what are you gonna do? I'm gonna frog it. I'm gonna frog the whole thing. And then I'm gonna re-knit it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna re-knit it. Cause I mean, I love the colors. I love the style. Like whenever I had it on, I really, aside from it being too big, I liked the way it fit, if that makes any sense. Like I liked the way it kind of like sat at my neck and, you know, like I can get the gist of it. And it's like, oh yeah, I want that sweater. I really want that sweater, but it's just way too big. So I kind of like pinched out some portions and I was like, I can get rid of, you know, a good like 32 stitches around the yoke, like easily. And then I went and I looked at the pattern and 32 stitches less is one size down. I was like, oh. I just legit picked the wrong size. Yeah. I legit just picked the wrong size. So, yeah, I'm gonna frog this. I'm gonna recast on with a larger needle size for the neck, which I had gone down a couple of needle sizes from what the pattern suggested for the neck. And it's just a little bit too tight. Like it's really up on my neck. So I'm gonna go up a needle size for the neck. I'm gonna, also like my needle sizes are all over the place on this. So this, I knit the neck on a size 3, the color work on a size 4, the body on a size 5, and the arm on a size 6. I'm just like all over the place. So this time I'm gonna do the neck on a size 4, color work on a size 4, body on a size 5, arms on a size 6. I'm gonna stick with that situation because the fabric it's making is good with that. I just need to knit a smaller size, which is a real bummer. I did look at the pattern and I could leave the neckline because the size lower has the same cast on stitch count. It doesn't diverge until you start getting into the increases before the yoke or in the yoke or something. I think the increases before the yoke. So I could just rip it back to the color work and leave the neckline. But I'm like, if I'm gonna rip back the whole thing and the neckline's a little bit too tight, like I might as well just rip back the whole thing and just start over. So I still really want this sweater. I really enjoyed knitting this color work. Like I'm not sad about having to knit it again. It was a very enjoyable pattern. And the rest is just stockinette, so whatever. Oh, that's a bummer though. Oh, that's a bummer. That's a lot of knitting. This, if I actually frog this and actually reknit it, I mean, that's like a new knitter milestone, I think. Because in the past, I would get to this and just kind of get stuck. And then it would probably just sit there and I would never do anything with it. So we're gonna do something with it. We're gonna frog it, we're gonna reknit it. It's gonna be beautiful. And I'm gonna wear it next fall. It's not a this winter sweater anymore. It's next fall sweater. Which, I mean, come on, like the first cold day in October coming out in this thing, when it actually fits me right, oh, that'll be so good. Okay, so that's the bad news. Oh, but the good news is I was gonna run out of yarn. I was totally gonna run out of yarn and have to get another ball of the orange to finish the ribbing on the body. But since I'm gonna go down a whole sweater size, I probably have enough yarn. So that's the silver lining on this one. I have to frog the whole thing, but I don't have to buy more yarn now. Boy. Boy. So I have a question for you guys. I was doing a lot of mending last time I chatted with you all, and I dug into some old sweaters that I have a couple of sweaters that just don't fit me anymore. I am not the same size I used to be. They're from earlier in my knitting when boxy fits were less in, and I definitely did a lot more modifications for less ease, right? So yeah, they just don't fit me anymore. So I have these two sweaters and they're like in a pile of someday I'll find somebody who needs them who's smaller than me. And I think I may have found somebody. So I pulled them out. One of them is fine. The other one, it has a little bit of moth damage. And I'm not sure what to do about it. So I'll show you here, but then I can show you in the close-up too. So it's right here. It's like a line of stitches that have gotten moth damage right here. None of them are totally broken yet, but there's like a row of like 7 or 8 stitches that are just about to break. And it's right on the front. It's right on the front. So that's a fun sweater, right? This pattern is, what is it called? Blank Canvas. It's from Ysolda Teague. It's a DK weight sweater, like basic sweater. I have knit 2 of these. This was my second one that I decided to do all stripy just for fun. And it is knit out of Knit Picks Gloss. Oops. Well, now that's a real hole. Knit Picks Gloss, which is a wool silk. It's like a 50-50 wool silk. So it's really nice. It's really nice. And it's out of all of these fun, like retro colors. I did like a random stripe generator situation to come up with the striping pattern. Very fun. But I don't know what to do about this thing. My thought was, because I don't have any of this yarn anymore. Like I made this a long time ago, like before I moved to New Mexico, a long time ago. This was actually my moving to New Mexico sweater. I finished it right before I moved here. Because I also figured they were like pretty Southwestern colors, right? Yeah, so I'm not really sure what to do. I don't have the yarn anymore to repair it. It's like kind of a nice sweater and it's like fitted. It's got these princess seams underneath the bust here instead of at the side seams. It also has those on the back, so it's like a bit more of a fitted garment, right? It's got the curve to it. So I feel like if I do some sort of visible mending situation, it's gonna be defeat the purpose of having a wool silk sweater. That's like nice. So then I was like, well, I can unravel it and use the yarn for something else because it's like the sweater doesn't fit me. I'm trying to give it away anyhow. But like that's the only spot. Like everything else is fine. I don't know. What do you guys think? Should I frog it and like make a scarf or a cowl or something? I don't know. What should I do? And yeah, it's like super pilly under the arms. I need to deal with that. I had a little depiller is one of those little battery operated ones with a little fan on it. I got it at Walmart like a while back. And the battery's corroded inside it. I got it out the other day and it's dead. So I gotta get another one. So also, if you have any suggestions for depilling devices, I've seen a lot of people love those little like razory things. I've never tried one. For some reason, that seems scarier than the little fan with the blade. I don't know why. Because it had a little guard on it, I guess. Anyway, let me know what you think, because I don't know what to do. So, lastly, we get to go in the studio. So, things are happening in the studio this week. My online shop is back up. It is online. That is the big news. I have got all of my sock white yarn and worsted white yarn listed in there. So go in and take a look. I also have a bunch of sport white yarn that is going to be going in shortly. And also, I am going to start bringing new product online, which is hand-woven, naturally dyed scarves. Yes, it's happening because it has been 2 weeks and I have made another scarf. Yay! This one is not for me. This one is going to go into the shop. It is not done yet. I have a couple random little ends I got to weave in, and I have to do my tassely bits. So my kind of goal is to weave one scarf per week. That's the goal. So I just kind of dove into my stash and found some yarn that I had. I didn't pull this out of like shop yarn or anything. This is just old naturally dyed yarn that I had in my personal stash. The green is dyed with sagebrush from my yard. Love it. And the blue is dyed very lightly with indigo. It's just this icy blue. Icy blue and a nice springy green, right? It's beautiful. And I just love being able to see the variation in color. Like, this is why I love naturally dyed, kettle dyed yarns. You just get this tonality that you just can't get otherwise. And it's so subtle. It does not pool. It's not a repeating thing. If you watched me last time, you know that I hate pooling. But just that subtle tonality is like my favorite. Yeah, so this still needs to be like washed and blocked and all of that, and then photographed, but it's going to be the first scarf up in my shop. So that will be going up shortly as well. Oh, so cute. And they're just going to keep coming. That's the plan. That is the plan anyway. So I've been enjoying the weaving process. I just kind of did this pattern on a whim. As I was warping, just said, I don't know, that seems like a nice round number. Let's do that. Yes, scarves are in the works. Yarn is up in the shop. Please go visit. Take a gander. Favorite the shop, so you'll get notified whenever I update. And it also helps me get my views up, which is always appreciated. Yeah, you can find all of the links for that down below in that little box. And I think that's everything for now. Thank you so much for joining me. I will be back in 2 weeks, hopefully with 2 new scarves. Ooh. Hopefully with 1 finished sock. Ooh. And hopefully with a frogged and restarted bright orange sweater. See you then. Bye, guys.